You're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Aamir Khan, Salman Khan and Shahrukh Khan.
Every show, we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
Hi guys, let's get going with the new episode. What are we doing? Which movie are we talking about? Sorry.
Don 2.
Yeah, episode 13 of Khandaan. Actually, let me prepare this a bit more.
If the movie doesn't star Salman, then Asim doesn't even know what movie it is.
I immediately lose all interest.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that everyone voted for Don 2. Can I just say that? Because I thought people would vote for Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Right?
But I'm so glad that I was not made to watch Bodyguard, and I'm so glad that I sat down and watched Don 2 instead.
I did. I was actually. I think I was looking most forward to Don 2 to watching it. And I think I'm good now. I don't want to watch Don 2 again for 10 years. I'm good. You know.
Okay. You know what? Let's just talk about the movie. We'll come to everything else later. Let's just talk about the movie because there's so much that we need to talk about.
Should we pick the year first though for the next episode? Should we do that at least?
Are we still doing that, or are we doing?
We're still doing it for 2 more episodes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I pulled up 1996. Have you done 1996?
Ooh, it's Raja Hindustani. Khamoshi.
Jeet.
Oh, Jeet also had Salman. I always forget that Salman was in Jeet.
Yeah. Small role though, right?
Yeah.
No? I have not seen it in ages. I don't remember it.
He was there the entire
should we consider Army in it?
Oof, no, man.
No, I don't think so. Oh my God, no! Don't make me do that.
There is no other.
Oh, English Babu Desi Meme.
Allah,
yeah. Oh dear. Chahat.
Chahat, yeah. Let's do Chahat.
How is Chahat better?
Better songs. Only reason.
Oh my God, there's so many B movies in this year. Should we talk about Veere the Wedding?
Yeah, let's get going, guys. Let's talk. So what we want to talk about this episode is we're going to be doing a little review of Veere the Wedding. We're going to be talking Bhavesh Joshi, and the main review is obviously Don 2. And we've also picked the year for the next episode. Again, just to kind of reiterate, we're going to be changing the format slightly from episode 15. So we'll be going towards more of a listener's choice format. So send us which movie you want us to review, because we understand that we've missed out a few big names or listeners' favorites. So we received quite a few names already. I think I have around 15, 16 names that we already received. And we're going to then pick we've not really decided how we're going to pick the movies from the listener's choice, but we're going to be doing 4 or 5 reviews of those. And we're also going to be reviewing Race 3 when it comes out. So that's going to be what Khandaan will be doing for the next few episodes. But episode 14, where we picked out the year 1996, which has Shahrukh Khan's Chahat, English Babu Desi Meme. Aamir had Raja Hindustani, and Salman had Khamoshi, Jeet, and Majdar. I didn't forget any, right?
No.
Good. So yeah, that's it. Let's start with Veere the Wedding, because I guess we have a lot to talk about. I mean, I didn't get a chance to see it. Sujoy, did you get a chance to watch it?
It was playing, but I chose to. I didn't have much time, so I chose to watch Bhavesh Joshi instead.
Yeah. So Amrita, you were the only one that got the chance to watch it, right?
Yeah.
So what did you think?
So it's true, like, it's not cinema with a capital C, if that's what you thought it was. And actually, if you thought that from seeing the trailer, like, you're an idiot. So I have zero sympathy for you. It's also not, like, like a lot of male reviewers in particular pointed out that it wasn't, like, super feminist. Which, again, like, what they mean is, like, it doesn't follow the usual Hindi tropes of, like, Dukhiari Nari, Abla Bechari, Duniya Se Hari. And then, like, like, she comes out and there's always, like, 9 out of 10 times there's, like, some rape involved somewhere. Like, if she's hot, then she got raped. If she's too old, then her daughter got raped. If she's, like, somewhat Bhabiji looking, then her servant got raped. Like, somebody got raped, basically, and then she gets mad and she comes back and she kicks ass. And this is not a movie about any of those things, It's not like, I am a goddess, I'm going to, like, kick your ass. There's none of that stuff. It's just basically about 4 crazy women who are just doing, like, their own shit. And it just tracks them as they're doing, like normal things, basically. So it's not too deep or anything. And if you are the audience for it, then you really enjoyed it. If you're not the audience for it, then you probably hate it. It's basically a chick flick, the same way there are, like, dick flicks, like there's, like, 1 million of them out. Like, if you've seen anything made by, like, Tushar Kapoor in the last 10 years, then you know what I'm talking about. Or, Vivek Oberoi, or, like, any of those people, basically. So it's just, it's funny. It's got pretty clothes. They go to pretty places. They have a bunch of fun. They break up. They make up. That's it. So I thought it was fine. And the most feminist thing about it is that basically it allows women to just be. Like, they don't have to do anything,
I find it very interesting, a lot of the conversation that's been going on around the movie, and this idea about, I don't know, like, what it is, but I find it weird about men complaining about a movie not being feminist or being feminist. I don't know. I just, like, I think Rajiv Masand or somebody else was making a point about it, how it's not a feminist movie or it is a feminist movie. And I don't know, just shut up, man. Like, I mean, honestly, I don't think you should, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in this, but like you said, I think let the movie be, just by being, it is a feminist movie. And I mean, I don't know, like, there's this idea about, there's a lot of, like, in conservative areas, there's a lot of, like, these back connotations about feminism, that it's about bringing down men or stuff like that. I don't understand those arguments. But it's funny where, I don't know, I would assume Rajiv Masand is a feminist, right? That he is then also judging about these things. I just find it I don't know, it just kind of sits wrong with me in a way. But
what I've heard about it is that it doesn't put, even the male characters in the movie are not shown in a negative light, as you would expect in a so-called dick flick. Yeah. When people, like, for example, Sonu Ki Titu Ki Sweetie, which is kind of the male equivalent of this movie, as someone would compare, or Kya Kule Hum from Balaji Telefilms, and you would show the women in those movies in a completely different light, but here men are treated as humans, and that's what I've heard. I've not seen this movie, and so when somebody or a male movie critic would say this movie isn't really feminist enough for them, is kind of mansplaining, if you can call it that.
Yeah. And what I also heard a lot about these guys making this argument is like, oh, if you show them smoking or sleeping around, or this whole masturbation thing, like somebody took their nani to see a masturbation scene and she got shocked. She had a heart attack immediately in the cinema and they had to bring in a helicopter to bring her out. I don't know what happened. Apparently it happened to a lot of nanis at the same time. Okay. But like, I don't like, again, these are arguments that I just do not understand. Like, what is this pure divine form of arti type feminism? There has to be, there's only one good, honorable way of being a feminist. I don't understand this. Like,
unless they did not watch any of the trailers and this movie was certified A in India, what the hell were they expecting to find in this movie?
I think one of the most, like, I think just touching back on what Sujoy said, the most feminist thing this movie does is basically present, like, the kind of men that it finds attractive. And the kind of men that it finds attractive are basically the kind of men that, like, anybody that I would find attractive too. Because, like, there's one guy, the guy that Kareena Kapoor's character is engaged to, who's like a grown adult. Like, he has his own business. He loves her. He wants to be with her. He has a family, but he's also supportive of her. And he's got her back. And when he does something dickish, he apologizes like an adult. And he's basically her partner, which is really nice. And he's like a proper grown up, And then you have, like, the other guy with whom, like, Sonam is hooking up. And he is shown as, like, this very particular kind of Delhi douche, like Lucha Lafanga types. But he's also, like, he admires her for being good at her job. He finds her, like, really hot, and he's trying to get her in bed with him. But then once he gets her in bed with him, the movie makes it a point to say that, like, he was good in bed in that, like, she had a good time with him, like, it wasn't just that they had sex. The point was that they had sex and he was a good partner to have sex with. And, like, at the end of the film, when she's like, okay, fine, like, I'll give him a chance, that's what she basically thinks about it, like, he's actually, like, much nicer than all the other men that she's been going out with. So that's kind of, like, one of the things that I thought was, like, really great in the film, like, the way that they were showing the men. That was, like, something. The one thing that people haven't been talking about this movie is class. Like,
yes.
There's a huge element of class in this movie that seems to be just flying under the radar. Like, people, I've seen, like, one person or a couple of people talk about, like, there's a scene with like a maid who's being abused at her home by her husband, and they think of that. But there's, like, other little things too, like when when Sonam is mad on behalf of her friend Swara Bhaskar, she says, like, nobody calls my best friend a bai, like, like things like that. But also, like, the life that these women are leading, I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, it's not realistic. Like, who lives like this? Who spends 5 crores on their wedding? Like, what is all this going? And I'm like, I'm from Delhi. I'm from exactly the circles that these women are. And I recognize these people.
Is it because I've not followed in, and you're right. I've only seen you retweet it. I have not seen that discussion going around. So is this kind of that Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, Dil Dhadakne Do, that type of criticism that it's like for rich people, or is it different than that?
Yeah, so that's basic. So that is, like, one thing, like, people have been saying, but they're not really talking about, like, it's like this, like, they're talking about the same things that Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, but for women and men in that class, the conversations are different.
Right. And
the conversations are different, as in, like, when the guys go to Spain in Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, that is like, okay, like, they're like rich kids and they're doing all these rich kid things. But when women in that same class do things, they're not just doing rich kid things, they're doing things in society that are very different from what women in other societies do. Because guys who are, like, from lower classes, so to speak, like, who have less money, they'll still go to Goa, or they'll go to, like, wherever it is that guys go, and, like, have a party and everything with their guy friends. But for women, when you see, like, all these women who are wearing, like, designer clothes, they're smoking, they're drinking, they're smoking weed, they're going away to Thailand, to Phuket for a week just because, they need to cheer up. That's a very different class, even within, like, people with money. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because, like, there's a lot of conservatism even in elite circles. Yeah. So the South Delhi kind of upper class that is portrayed in this film is a very particular kind of class that I don't think a lot of people have been talking about.
So let's talk a bit about the controversy about this movie too, because there's two going on at the same time, right? One is, and both of them are centered around Swara Bhaskar. One is the big masturbation scene, which I already made fun of a bit earlier. I mean, what's odd about that? Like, I remember in Delhi Belly, there were, like, like erection jokes, and Grand Musty has penis jokes all the time. So I don't even understand what the controversy is about.
What I find annoying is it spoiled the surprise for me. It's probably, it's there in the movie to provide a sort of a shock value. And it's one of the first such occurrences in a Hindi movie, I suppose. But it's completely ruined because everybody else has been tweeting about it, and I haven't still seen the movie. So I'm expecting that to happen in the movie when I'm going to watch it, right? So I don't know if that's...
Because we're not the type of guys that are just Googling Swara Bhaskar masturbation scene. We're not one of those Google hits.
Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, all these people... And also the way the movie presents it. Like, I'm sorry, Sujo, I'm just going to ruin it even further for you. But the way, the way that people have been justifying that scene also is kind of weird. It's like, she hasn't been having sex with somebody. That's why she needed to, masturbate. And I'm like, no, you could be in, a loving, healthy relationship with somebody and still have needs. It's not like something like she was doing something, dirty or something that was, shameful or something. It's, something that most human beings do. And then there's all these people who are I don't know from where these people are coming. And they're all just this is feminism. Would you do that in front of your parents in the living room? And I'm
no.
I'm like, bhai, do you do that? And because I can guarantee you do it 3 times a day. And there you are asking all these stupid things. What is wrong with people?
Yeah, and also, I mean, you have a shower every day. You have a shit maybe, twice a day. You don't do that in front of your dad either. There's tons of things you don't do in front of your dad.
Oh, okay.
It's an absurd thing. And the second is obviously Swara Bhaskar's comments about Pakistan, which was a big thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed, I have to admit, because just last episode, my main point was, if Swara Bhaskar is in a movie or, Kareena Kapoor is in a movie, I'll watch it. And now I kind of feel like a little bit of a twinge when I hear her talking and stuff. So the comment she made, I mean, the way I perceived it, and initially I saw the little clip that was doing the round on Twitter. People had intercut it with her interviews in Pakistan that she did, that she actually visited, and she was welcomed very well and all that kind of thing on the talk shows, with what she said in Rajiv Masan's interview. So I'd seen that, and I didn't like what she was saying, it did kind of, pinch my feelings that I say. I wouldn't say it hurt my feelings because it's just a celebrity saying something. So I won't even give the value of, it's hurting my personal feelings or anything. But it did kind of, it pinched me a little. So I thought, I need to give it a benefit of the doubt, and I want to listen to the whole interview and see what the context was. So I did. And I also listened to her apology or a clarification. It's not an apology. It's a clarification she gave. And I think she comes out bad in all 3 of them. I think it doesn't sound good at all. So the point I thought she made, and you guys can really correct me. And okay, I know I'm Pakistani originally, so there's obviously that bias is in there. I want to acknowledge that. So I think she said that India shouldn't always compare itself with Pakistan because Pakistan is a failing state that is ruled by Sharia. And we also have a very bad use of language, she knows. I think these are the 3 points that I got out of it. And, obviously I am, kind of offended. So I may be picking out the points of the grander scheme of things, what she was trying to say. But honestly, I don't understand what she was trying to say. Pakistan is definitely not a failing state and we're not ruled by Sharia. And so again, I don't get it. So, Amrita, do you know what she was trying to say?
I think it's I think there's 2 things on it. One, I think she just been through heavy trolling as on Twitter, at least. I don't know about other media, but on Twitter she'd been under heavy attack by these right-wing Hindu trolls who were basically saying that she's some sort of Pakistani agent. She loves Pakistan more than she likes India. And they'd been saying that among other things, but this was like one of the main lines of attack. And they'd been doing that consistently from like before Veere the Wedding released, and they were continuing it after that. And I think
Padmavati it started, no? With Padmavati's open letter she wrote?
That was the I felt reduced to a vagina thing, and then they tied that into the masturbation scene, and they were like, like she said that about Padmavati, and then now she's doing
now
that.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
And all that? Yeah.
So that was different. This other whole thing was that she, I guess because she had been to Pakistan and stuff, and she had said complimentary things about it. They were like, like she loves Pakistan more than she loves India. And for some reason that was tied into Veere the Wedding. I don't even know where Pakistan comes in there. But anyway, so they were like
talking. The movie is banned in Pakistan.
So that was what it was. And then they were like, this is what happens to people, who badmouth their own country and like love another country. And then nothing happened for her in Pakistan, even though she did all that. So I think she'd gone through that for like about 10 days straight when she gave that interview. And then she was just trying to be like defending herself and trying to say that, no, I'm still Indian, like at least stop talking about that. So, and what came out of her mouth was this thing, which I heard it, and immediately I was like, oh girl, like, you are in such shit. But I think...
It's like when you say, ye wo keh gayi jo inhe nahi kehna chahiye tha.
Yeah. I think what she was trying to say is that Pakistan is a failed state thing. I've heard a lot of people say that, and it just sort of trips out of their mouth because it's something that, aam baat hai, it's like something that you hear among uncles, aunties saying, it's just there in your head all the time when people are trying to say something about yahan pe aisa hota hai.
Yeah, it's a funny perception that I do feel that a lot of times coming from India about Pakistan, which I just found very odd because I understand. Obviously there's historical context and, there's it's not always gone well politically between the countries, but, I'll be honest, really, really honest. The negativity I see from Indian side towards Pakistan, I don't feel that from the Pakistan side come towards India that much. My Muslim friends in India have a very kind of weird view of Pakistan, which I honestly, I've never been in conversation with Pakistani where they have the same kind of views about India. There seems to be more of a welcoming kind of, but you're right. There is a narrative about Pakistan that I just went a couple of months ago and I'd not been in ages, and I can guarantee you it's not a failed state. It's doing really, really well for itself.
I think the difference between India and Pakistan is that Pakistanis see a lot more of Indian culture than Indians see of Pakistani. And then I think the things that she said, I think I don't know, I didn't read her clarification, and then I didn't read what is the other thing she did? She clarified and then she apologized. What did she do?
No, she clarified. Basically, she said that criticizing a state is not the same as criticizing its people, and I still love the people and I have lots of friends there, which I feel doesn't address any of the 3 points she made. But anyway.
Okay. So I actually did think that was what she was trying to say in a very clumsy way, because what she was saying was that she, it all just came out. She was incredibly defensive, and you could see that she was incredibly defensive. And Rajiv Masand is the worst kind of interviewer for that kind of mental state, because he's completely unhelpful, and he's he's turning the screw a little bit more. That's his job.
Yeah.
So I think what she was trying to say, to give her the benefit of the doubt, because you asked me what she might be trying to say. The best explanation I can say is that she was trying to say that her friends in Pakistan are just like her, and they're very cool, very chilled out, and they don't have any problems with people swearing any more than people in India have, progressive people in India have with Veere the Wedding. But she can't do anything about the movie being banned in Pakistan, because the state has different ideas about what is proper than the people. So I think that's what she was trying to say. And to be fair, the reason I think that way is because I saw a lot of Pakistanis, before she gave this interviews, because I follow a few Pakistanis and they're obviously on the more liberal side of it. And they were saying the same thing. Like, that's what I got out of it, because they were saying that, like the censorship and like the film censor board in Pakistan was basically a joke for banning this movie, because they saw it as something that was like the same thing as like the liberals in India were saying about all the controversy around Veere Di Wedding. They were like, ladkiyon ne film bana di aur usme 2-4 gaaliyan de di, so then you're like, nahi, ye nahi ho sakta. But then there's like all this other shit that is happening to women, and like people are like, हाँ okay चलता है, ऐसा तो होता रहता है. So they were like actually on the side of Swara, and they were like supporting Swara like when that ban whole thing happened. And then Swara, I think, just took that, and then what came out of her mouth was Pakistan sucks. And I was like, maybe you should have like sat down and like made like a proper statement.
Yeah. It did feel like a word vomit more than anything. Like blah blah blah.
That interview, by the way, like if you've seen it, like that is the reason why I cannot stand Rajiv Masand, because that whole thing was like, but like which one of you hates each other? Like he tried his best to find out like who hated whom, and they were just like, no, we're chill, we're fine. But
and when Swara did that bit, like the channel goes, yep, mil gaya hame. Footage mil gaya.
Hit hai, hit hai. Interview hamara hit hai. What I did also find funny is Bebo in the interviews. Because half of the time she's just like hiding her face, like, please don't get involved me in any of this. Like, please don't. And she's like one of those, I don't know, like this is maybe a stretch, but she might be one of those girls that don't necessarily get along with other girls, because I felt she was very defensive with the Anupama Chopra interview, where she was very like touching Rajiv and, oh, we love you, Rajiv, and this and that. So it was just kind of a very weird kind of dynamic Bebo was having there.
Except for the freaky whiskey pine wali friends.
She's very like old school Bollywood.
Yeah.
Like everything that comes out of like Baby, like Sonam is all like, no, it's like a new Bollywood, like we're trying so hard, like we're changing the culture, and Bebo's like, ha, culture change karoge, like I can't even believe this movie is ahead. So Bebo's Bebo, like
Bebo's Bebo, yeah, that's what it comes down to every time with Bebo. Bebo's Bebo. But I was also kind of happy for I think her name is Sakshi.
Shikha Talsani.
Shikha Talsani, sorry. I thought it was cool for her, that like she's broken through, and hopefully she can, also get more budget, more projects going. It's always cool to kind of have an actress that's been working in the background for a while, and I saw a lot of people praising her too. So I think I'm still looking forward to watching it on Netflix or some streaming platform when it arrives. And I still like Swara, even though she said something really shitty about my country. But yeah, we'll get over it. We're bade dil wale hain, bade dil wale hain. Oh.
But Sujoy, how did you like Bhavesh Joshi?
Oh, can I just say I'm feeling bad for poor Harshvardhan. But I mean, I feel bad, but then he has this talent of putting his foot in his mouth publicly so much. But yeah, nobody's talking about his poor movie, man. It feels
that's the sad thing, because I think obviously for obvious reasons, and because like Sonam Kapoor is such a PR magnet, she has she's sucked out all the attention from Bhavesh Joshi into Veere Di Wedding, and also all the controversy that's been surrounding Veere Di Wedding has kind of hogged all the attention. So there's nothing really going for Bhavesh Joshi, except for that it's a really interesting movie, and throughout 2018, there's not been a Hindi movie that's like sort of captured my imagination. It has I still think about this movie after having seen almost a week ago, and it's very rare to say that about a Bollywood movie, especially in 2018. It is very unfortunate that it came out on the same weekend as Sonam Kapoor's movie. And Harshvardhan isn't that bad, to be honest. He's really sincere. He's very hardworking. And you can see that he's put in his sweat, blood, and all time and effort into this movie. It kind of speaks new things about the whole superhero genre in a way that, what if a vigilante were to rise up in present-day Bombay and in Mumbai and sort of try to fight the establishment and the corruption, the corrupt system that there is. It plays around with the tropes of superhero genre, like you have a villain, and what if the villain wasn't someone who is like single-mindedly evil and had a villain lair or nothing like that. If it was just somebody who's working in the government and has a sinister plan to make a lot of money, and that was it. And our heroes have some sort of conviction regarding what is good and what is bad and what is gray in this world. And it plays around with all those elements. And I am a great fan of how Vikramaditya Motwani's style of cinema is, and he brings in his sort of realism take of if a superhero movie were to exist in a realistic world, how would that play off? And it does a lot of really clever things with that. I do believe that a lot of people who went in expecting, fantastical elements that you expect out of a Marvel superhero movie will be disappointed with how it turns out, because it does not deliver on that front, but it has got a lot of things going for it. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
I think when we last spoke about the trailers of the Bhavesh Joshi, we were kind of expecting it to be Daredevil meets Rang De Basanti kind of thing. So is it like a bit like that?
Yeah, it is a bit like that, but it also has it is a bit like that in that the nationalism element of Rang De Basanti exists, but also the character motivation, I wouldn't spoil it for you, but the character motivation for Bhavesh Joshi, the titular character, is mostly guilt, and it's such a beautiful thing in how it is portrayed. You have to watch it for to understand what I mean by it.
Right.
I'd highly recommend both of you. So
is there still hope for Harshvardhan? What do you think?
That's difficult to say, because even within the universe of this movie, he is playing like an everyday man, like a common man. Mm-hmm. Like he roams around, even after getting recognized, he roams around with minimal, makeover in a way, so that he kind of blends in as a common Bombay man. And so that there is no star power to him. I don't know if that works in favor of him or not. Where when you expect a Bollywood hero in 2018 to completely stand out and be loud about his performance, on one hand you have the Ranveer Singhs and Varun Dhawan and everybody else, and then you have this, lanky guy with beard all over his face. Even though he's the son of Anil Kapoor, you don't see that swagger in him. Yeah. There is no hero-ness about him, but that suits him perfectly in this movie. It all depends on what his next project is, if it is at all happening. I would definitely like to revisit this universe, maybe in a Netflix format, because then it gives you more breathing space and more scope to tell a wider story. But yeah, I don't know if it is going to be possible at all, because this movie played for only a week in London. Not sure if it is playing anymore anywhere else.
But it's a small budget movie, so a lot of times they don't even get a screening, so it's not necessary. And could Imran Khan have pulled this role off? Because he was penciled in for a long time, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea about that, but I did hear that Harshvardhan has been, this movie has been in the making since 2014, even before Mirzya was out. So I'm not sure if Imran was ever considered.
No, he was. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was actually listening to you speak, Sujoy, and I was thinking, like, then why did they give this a wide release? Because it sounds like a perfect streaming project.
Yeah, it does. It like even more whilst you're watching, you are thinking like, oh, they could have extended it a bit more, and this would have worked more on a streaming platform, like a 4-episode miniseries or something like that. But yeah,
I guess that's the big choice that a lot of actors will have to make going forward, and I don't think anyone's actually thinking about it right now. But eventually they'll have to decide if they want to do like you were saying, like when you said, like heroes in 2018 need to be like really loud and like really there. And I was thinking at first, I was like, wait, why? And then I was like, no, you're right. Like that is like Herogiri in 2018 is like very like super masala. It's like sort of like, like coagulated into that. You're right.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you want to do, I can see, like, like I hear this Harshvardhan kid talking about his movies and like the movies that he wants to do and things like that. And I'm like, well, then you will need to make a choice at some point. And I think right now what everyone is saying is like, we need to change the culture around like Hindi cinema. Like that's what all the Anurag Kashyap fans always say on Twitter and on the internet, right? Like,
yeah.
Like crap movies always get like all this big money and like big release, but like the good movies never do. And I'm like, that is true, but also it will always be a business, and the business will follow the money.
So, I mean, if you're not going and watching Bhavesh Joshi even after it's been such a great movie, in my honest opinion, that it is a good movie, and nobody went to watch it, how can you expect? How can you go and complain, oh, only crap movies get all the money?
Yeah, you have to vote with your feet. But I think, like, if actors like him really are committed to projects like this, then they need to make a shift and, like, start pitching them to, like, Netflix or Amazon or something, and, like, try and see if you can make that quality of cinema on streaming platforms. And I think, like, Sacred Games is going to be something like that. Talking about like an extra Khan, Saif Ali Khan is coming out with Sacred Games, which is based on like the novel by God, I'm blanking on his name. Amazing, Vikram Chandra. That's right. Yeah. And so I think that's like that's a thing that people will have to start thinking. Like if you want to have like one foot in both camps, or if you want to be like one kind of actor, but I don't think the economics support this kind of projects. I haven't seen it, so I'm just saying this based off Sujoy's review. But
and I think this is a global problem with cinema, right? This is not like a solely Bollywood problem.
Yeah.
Where, even in Hollywood, people are, ticket sales have been going down for years, but the Marvel movies are doing great. Star Wars is doing great. Harry Potter is doing great. But if you have kind of a medium budget, you have to almost, pick a streaming platform or something like that and go through that way. So
I think like, when we are talking about global, like when Spielberg was making Lincoln, he said for a long time, this was probably going to become an HBO movie. And
it should have.
Yeah. That's a different conversation too. but like when we talk about Hollywood, Will Smith does not have any problem, or Natalie Portman does not have any problem for their movie to be streamed straight to Netflix. But when it comes to like Bollywood, I don't think Salman, Aamir or Shahrukh would like their movie to go straight to Netflix. Maybe Saif Ali Khan is making that move, but not even a Ranveer Singh or a Varun Dhawan or Ranbir Kapoor would like their movie to release on Netflix first. That's kind of like a step down in a status.
Yeah. Or maybe the paycheck isn't big enough, right? I think.
Yeah, maybe that's not. Maybe that will be the deciding factor when there is a movie that is like Netflix is green flagging a movie that is like a budget of 100 crores or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's especially sad for Shahrukh, because I think Shahrukh would do really well in a Netflix environment.
Like a serial kind of thing, or like more of a movie.
Like a mini series, like if he, especially the kind of like romances that he used to do in the 2000s and stuff that he was really good at. If you did like a slightly like a grown-up version of it, but then you did it as a mini series. Maybe with because I keep seeing like his old fans like who would love to see him with somebody like Aishwarya or Madhuri or something on screen again, and I keep thinking like if there's a Netflix project with like Shahrukh and Aishwarya or Shahrukh and Madhuri or Shahrukh and Aishwarya and Madhuri, like that would be amazing. Like I'd watch the hell out of it.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of possibilities, but I don't think streaming has caught on, and I hope Sacred Games is going to be a big thing and it's going to be a big hit. And I also feel like they want something to cross over, that the kind of Hollywood appreciation that Aamir Khan has been aiming for since Lagan, that some maybe through this channel it kind of comes to fruition. And I also feel this kind of Anurag Kashyap kind of crowd. This is also this kind of appreciation that they're looking for, and they've not really gotten yet. We have moments where peddlers will win something at Cannes or Masan wins something at Cannes, but it's not something that they can build off on, which is a shame. But maybe Sacred Games could be one of those things, So let's see. I have high hopes for Sacred Games, and looking at the teasers and the trailers, it looks like Saif is at least awake in the movie, so which is already a good thing, right?
Oh, one more thing about V-Lady Wedding. Like friends of the podcast will be happy to hear that there's a scene in which Karina's wearing that amazing blue dress that you see in the trailer, and she's walking into her reception, and Swara turns to her and says, "Gogo ji, aapka ghagra." And I laughed so hard. So that was one more thing.
I think let's move on to our main review, right?
मेरे दुश्मन समझ रहे थे मैं अब कभी लौट के ना आऊंगा। एक गुमनामी का समुंदर है, उसमें ही जाके डूब जाऊंगा। अभी बाकी मेरी कहानी है, सारी दुनिया को जो सुनानी है। मुझे पहचानो, देखो मैं हूं कौन, आ रहा हूं पलट के, मैं हूं डॉन।
Yeah, I was thinking let's take it back to like 2011 because it's a weird one because it's not that long ago, but maybe it's just my memory. I forget everything about everything. I forget what I ate last week, what I ate like for lunch, but it just seemed like it seems so close, but a lot of things have kind of changed in a way, and some things have remained exactly the same. So I was watching a few like interviews, and it was interesting to go back. Actually, if people want to go back, I did an interview with Farhan Akhtar about Dawn 2 when it was releasing. But I refused to listen to that interview because it was one of the first ones I did, and I cringed when I hear how bad I was. So if anybody wants to go listen, they can do that. I'm not going to do it. This was the year where this was the year where Bollywood was obsessed with the 100 crore club. And they were just churning out these South Indian remakes. We'd had all the Salman Khan Wanted, Gajni, and all these kind of things. And I think they were really. I think the biggest hits at that in that year were Reddy, Bodyguard, and I think Reddy was also a remake. And then Singham. So very kind of 80s machos kind of thing. And then Shahrukh was actually doing something different. He was doing Ravan, which maybe it wasn't like the biggest success in terms of returns, but it was such a ballsy move to make. It was he really put in everything in that movie, VFX wise and budget wise. And then he did Dawn 2, which was also not pretty much the opposite of what Salman was doing, with the Reddies and all that. It was a very kind of Hollywood James Bond Mission Impossible kind of movie.
As you're saying that, like, it's interesting to me because as I was watching, that Zara Dil Ko Tham Lo, like that title song.
Yeah.
It's funny because as I was watching it, and it's been a long time since I saw this movie. Like, I don't think I've seen this movie since it came out. So as I was watching that song, I was like, oh my God, like, this is basically like half of Prakash Raj's career in Southern movies is basically doing variations of the song. like stylistically, this movie actually, it's the other way around. Like this movie actually had a profound impact on masala movies being made in Telugu and Tamil cinema. I don't know about Kannada cinema because I don't watch it, but Telugu and Tamil cinema, the movies that were then being remade into Hindi, like a lot of the stuff that you see in Don 2 is basically had like a huge impact on those, like stylistically had a huge impact on those movies.
So you mean like the concentric circle bulbs dimming and flashing and Lara Dutta in a golden dress and all that? And with not specific style elements, but the thing of like, the way that that villain's lair is done, like, the red and the black and the mirrored surfaces, the people in the shadows, the silhouettes, and then the way that Shahrukh dresses in the film and like, the way he walks through is actually really hilarious to kind of think about, just go back and watch like Prakash Raj doing it in like a bunch of Telugu movies. Yeah. And like I can see that. Once you mentioned it, I can see like Pawan Kalyan in all of his movies doing that.
It's really like I'd forgotten just how stylistically important this movie was until I saw it.
And that's what we were talking about as well, Asim, right? Because I was quite surprised at a movie from 2011, a Bollywood movie production, to have such high quality production value.
Yeah, and this is the second Excel movie we're reviewing on Khandaan, and I think Excel it's one of the best, honestly, in terms of production values, the way they kind of, set up a movie, how they shoot scenes, how the logic and the production of it is as good as, I would say, a Hollywood production. I mean, there's definitely budget constraints. You can see that,
Yeah.
But I mean, this was still kind of 2011. It's been a while, right? So, they've, until then they've upped their game, I imagine. But, it's so sleek. I mean, everybody looks like $1 million. Everybody looks so good, Shahrukh looks amazing. Like, the way he's dressed. He had these overcoats, like raincoats on and stuff. I was like, damn, that looks good still now. And
the action pieces are fantastic.
Yeah. Like it's edited so well that it makes Shahrukh look good, because you can tell that they are not exactly professional, martial artists, but it's produced so well that you believe in that.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I always liked Dawn 2 more than Dawn, the first Shahrukh Dawn. And my problem with Dawn is that I love the original Dawn with Amitabh Bachchan. But the problems I had, that Dawn always felt very juvenile to me. That, this kind of teenage boy thing of, but the bad guy wins it in this one, so like, this is the twist. The bad guy was actually always the bad guy. And I don't find that something that I can necessarily, it's not Breaking Bad. It's not Mad Men where we're following this negative protagonist, but we also see the influence of his behavior on his life. Here he's just reveling in it. And I think Shahrukh and Farhan understand that, and they don't necessarily mind, that's what they want to do. Shahrukh was saying in an interview that he plays him as an utter bad guy. He plays him like a personification of a snake. And I see that. And
yeah. He overdoes it a bit, actually. Yes. like you and I, we've all talked about Shahrukh's swagger, like the way he walks in every movie, and he's got this natural swagger, right? That's very it's very manly, it's very macho, it's very attractive. And in this one, he basically does a catwalk. Like you can see it in the shots where he's like walking away from the camera, because he's like crisscrossing his legs literally like a cat, and sort of going away. And it's kind of awkward because he's got this natural grace and rhythm to him, and then he does this, and you're just like, why are you doing that?
So Shahrukh did address exactly his walk in an interview. He said, I kept it as a feminine walk, that he was walking like a model. like a female model, which...
That is true!
Yeah. No, but what I loved about it is that he was in this environment with Excel and making this movie that he put so much analysis in it. I don't think that he did this with Dilwale or with Chennai Express. You know what I mean? But Dawn, with working with Farhan, and they actually thought about all of these things. How will I walk? How will I be as a character? Which animal am I? Which is basic, acting, acting 101 in a way, right? It's the basis of how you create a character. But it's cool that they created a character. It's already more than you almost expect from Hindi movies, and they did that basically. And I think Excel is probably a large part of that.
Yeah, that's basically the difference between Rohit Shetty and Farhan Akhtar in one shot. That's where it is.
Yeah.
I think my problem with Dawn 2 is really a matter of plot. Because the beginning of the movie is fantastic, It's like Shahrukh with that long hair, and he's like, he's mean, and he's sort of rough, and he's sort of tough. And Shahrukh in prison, where he's got that, he's wearing that wife beater, and he's like beating up people and like being really mean and nasty. That is like jam. I really enjoyed all of that. And it was like good action, and it was fast paced, and it was great. The problem was, he got on his side too far. If they had prolonged the prison sequence and they'd set the first half of the movie with him convincing Vardhan for something and having to do prison politics and prison shit, that would have been a super interesting movie.
It's funny when he comes into the jail, Vardhan says, "Welcome to hell, Dawn." And I was like, this is a pretty cool, nice prison. Actually, this is not that bad.
Yeah.
But then hell also lasts for 5 minutes. It's literally one guy comes and then he beats him up and says there's trash clogging up the drain pipes, and he walks off. And then the second half, the whole, first of all, the problem with the Berlin sequence is that, first of all, they're trying to do a heist movie, right? So it's got that whole vibe of putting a crew together and doing all this stuff. But first of all, your crew is Kunal Kapoor, which right there is the problem. Secondly, what you're stealing is currency, plates, which is not a sexy thing to steal. There's zero romance or anything. It's literally they're trying their best to sex it up a little bit, and they're just showing it to the light, and the colors are glinting. But at the end of the day, it's like a steel plate. Who cares? And third, all the people that are involved in I know we're supposed to be oh no, they have hostages and blah, blah, blah. But it's a mess. That whole heist sequence is a mess. There's him, and then he gets laid out, then he's out, and then he needs to go back in. And the only good thing about that is the whole Priyanka and Shahrukh sequence that you see. But even that is sort of shortchanged, because you're well, what happened to Priyanka after that? Kya hua?
Yeah.
Because you don't it ends very abruptly for Priyanka in that movie. So I'm just I think there's a writing problem with how that movie was fashioned.
I think one of the problems is also that Shahrukh towers over everybody. There's nobody his equal here. He doesn't have a bad guy he's playing against. His crew is quite lame. So there's really no foil to Shahrukh. It's just Shahrukh's show pretty much all the time. And I think that's kind of also takes away a bit of the intrigue and a bit of the fun here, which is kind of...
Yeah,
the counterpoint here is though, I couldn't care less because it's a Shahrukh show, and I'm happy to just watch him do Ethan Hunt stuff, you know. And so, I guess it's not a memorable movie. I've seen it now, and I don't care if I don't watch it again. But I'm happy that I watched it because I got to watch Shahrukh do what he does best, evil laughs and play manipulative plots and do all sorts of stunty work.
This is also the best that Lara Datta has ever looked in her life.
I was so happy to see her just on screen again, in her.
But yeah,
in her
I wanted
prime,
to see more of her.
Yeah.
Zara Dil Ko Tham Lo, Yeah.
Like,
she was
we
gorgeous.
did Tham Lo Our Dils for a moment, right? That's such a trend thing.
Yeah, do you reckon this has a better soundtrack than the prequel?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
My personal favorite Lara Datta is Blue. In that song with Sanjay Dutt. She looks amazing in that. Like, whatever. Anyway, nobody talks about Blue. I just want to talk a bit about Blue.
What a thing to remember.
Hey, it was that memorable, right? That song is really good. It's just such an underrated A.R. Rahman album more than anything. But okay, I'm off topic.
Well, that album had Chiggy Wiggy also. Right?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Are you talking about Kylie Minogue? Like the Chiggy Wiggy with it? Like that one?
No. It's that underwater song that Sanjay Dutt and I think it's called Zara Zara something. Dil Zara Zara. It has a very different kind of song. Anyway, yeah. So we're Lara Datta. Sidetracked.
Let's talk about Priyanka Chopra.
Oh my God!
You talk about Priyanka Chopra, like.
Can I talk a minute about Priyanka Chopra?
No, hang on, Amrita. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Was this like peak Shahrukh PC romance affair period?
I think this is a movie where they started actually, because
isn't this what they ended?
while they were. Sorry, what?
Isn't this where it ended? I thought this was where they ended. It had been going on for a long time before. I mean, these are all rumors. Huh? We have Shahrukh fans listening. Patthar mat marna. But yeah.
It didn't end until after she got Quantico, because that's when that whole leather jacket thing happened.
Right.
But I think this is where it started, because there were all those photos of, the way people started speculating about the affair was because they were coming back from like some shoot or the other, and they were at the airport, the two of them together, and the Paps basically shot this picture of her holding on to him, but like. So here's the thing, right? Like you guys and I, like we're friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we are in a crowd and like we're afraid, like, like there's too much crowd, I feel unsafe, like I'll hold on to you, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because you're like big guy, you're like Asim, like bhai hai mera, like you take care of me. So I like hold on to your arm, I'll hold on to your jacket, I'll hold on to your hand maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I would never in a million years put my hand in your pocket.
What?
And then ask you to like take me through a crowd. Like that would never, like. Wait, I don't
which
care
pocket? Which pocket was this that she was?
Your front jeans pocket.
Shit, man. That's where I keep my popcorn and my sweets.
I'm sorry, like there's just no way in hell. Like I've had like a lot of close guy friends over the years. I would never just like thrust my hand down the front pocket and be like, saath chalte hain.
Wow.
I consider myself like a fairly affectionate person. Like I don't have problems with like, like physical intimacy or anything, but that's a little too far. So, apparently, like either they were just really good friends who were like really physically comfortable with each other, which fair enough, like they were doing like, all the romancing stuff. But so they basically got a photo of her like walking through the airport with her hand, like her fingers in his pocket. And they were like getting into a car. And then everybody was like, oh, kuch chal raha hai in dono ke saath. And like, that's when the rumors started, and then it just went on for like forever.
Yeah, and then also she had the whole dirty laundry episode where she talked about an ex with a leather jacket, and clearly that was a leather jacket that Shahrukh was wearing in other pictures, right?
Yeah.
So
that was like what, a year?
Yeah, last year I think. Yeah.
But this is like, after this, what happened was like when the movie came out, after the first. After the first movie came out, there wasn't like too much philia between the two of them or anything. But like after the second movie came out, Dawn 2, the movie that we are talking about, the there was something different about the interviews that they were doing, because they had all this rumors of an affair, and Shahrukh has never really had like rumors of an affair, right? Like except for like the beginning of his career when people didn't know him. So people were like already had their antennas at the ready, but the two of them were like very like flirty and like very engaged in a very different way. And it might be just that PC is like that, like, you know, she's very flirty and she's like very tactile as a person, as you can see in all her interviews in the States right now. But people here were like, affair to hai. Like, and this was a movie that like really cemented that, I think.
I think it's also like we need to understand that these celebrities, they live a whole different life than we do, right? Like, and it's just, like, I don't know what we, you know, like how their marriages are and how they, what kind of, you know, the mechanics of their relationships are with each other. But, I always felt they were banging. Like, I just, like, maybe they're such good actors, but I just felt that they were banging. Like, I don't know. But I have no moral qualms with if they were or not. I mean, I'm sure they've cleared it with whoever they needed to clear it when it was happening.
And also, PC has that shady history, you know, like she, you know, like a history of like who she's with Akshay and like all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. And I mean, PC, she's always been kind of like, controversy has always, you know, surrounded her, unfortunately, I feel. Even now she's in a controversy as this moment as we speak. So, but the thing is, I'm realizing it because I haven't seen her in a while in movies, like Bollywood, Hindi movies. I remembered that I don't like her on screen. I respect her more than I like her. You know, like I respect the grind. I respect the things she's doing, you know, going out and carving her own route and, you know, being really, really successful. I don't like her on screen. I don't like her in Dawn 2. I don't like this Malaysian Quantico she's part of, which is a total useless Interpol kind of setup. I don't know what is. Because in the first movie, she was not an Interpol agent whatsoever. This was kind of, suddenly she became one in the second one, right?
I have no recollection of whatever happened. But, I don't know. I think she's also grown as an actress since Dawn 2. Like I remember watching her in Bajira Mastani, and she was probably one of the best things about that movie in comparison to like everybody else. So I think she's grown as an actress. Like, but maybe not in Dawn 2. I didn't really like her in Dawn 2.
Yeah, I think it's. I've liked her in certain movies. I'm not going to say that I always hate her. But I think the movie where she's kind of just playing a romantic interest, I think she's terrible in those. You know, and this was the year that Saath Khoon Maaf also came out. So, she was doing, you know, bigger leading projects. But, you know, when she's doing this, she's doing Zanjeer, she's doing, you know, Teri Meri Kahani, Agnipat. I feel she's terrible in those. But yeah, she is good in like stuff like Barfi. She was great in Barfi, right?
Yeah.
Do you like her on screen, Amrita?
Sometimes I do. Like it's like in, I don't know, like it's, in Barfi I liked her.
Yeah.
I liked her in the first Dawn. I liked her in, I think, Saath Khoon Maaf. Like, I actually enjoyed her.
But I liked her in the Desi Girl song.
Yeah, she was like a lot of fun, Dostana. Yeah. So I like her in like specific things, but I would never describe myself as a Priyanka fan. I don't think.
Yeah. And she's she's had a long career. So if we're having trouble finding 5-6 movies that we like, I don't think that's great, right? She was great in Dil Dhadakne Do too, but again, an ensemble piece. But anyway, so yeah, I did not like her at all in this movie. And it's funny that you're talking about Dawn 1 because I rewatched 40 minutes of Dawn 1 because it's been a long time. I haven't revisited it. And it was, because I was so anti Dawn 1 at that time, I couldn't really, pull myself out of those thoughts. So rewatching it now for 40-50 minutes, I just thought Bebo was much more alive in the first 20 minutes she's in than Priyanka or Laura Datta or Isha Kopikar, who's also in it, are in the entirety of the rest of the movie. I think Bebo really brings something, and she's made to do some ridiculous things, and she's treated really badly in the movie. The way Dawn kills her is terrible. And Dawn in Dawn 1 is really a really bad guy, where in Dawn 2 he gets a lot more whitewashed in a way. Because he's fighting and he's doing this, drug kind of dealing, but he doesn't really, kill any innocent people as much as I remember in Dawn 2, right?
Yeah.
Where he's doing that constantly in Dawn 1.
I think... yeah, I think that's also that whole sequence between Dawn and Roma in the second movie, it was just very underwritten, that whole thing, I think maybe if they'd had a more seasoned actress than Priyanka was at the time, then she might have been able to pull it off. But I don't think Priyanka had the tools at that time to portray the depth of feel and the tangled kind of feelings that Roma has for Dawn at that point.
Yeah, her internal conflict about what she actually feels about Dawn isn't really apparent. Really, are you really struggling to shoot this guy?
And also, just to go back to what Asim said, it's really unfair to compare Kareena with, almost anybody because, Bebo is a star. That's one thing I didn't mention in, the piece about Veere the Wedding, because it doesn't matter who's on screen or who's doing what or, whatever. Bebo is a star, and you can tell that Bebo is a star, with anything that's happening. She just leaps off the screen. It doesn't matter what she's doing. So, Priyanka doesn't have a chance against Bebo.
Yeah. Plus, Bebo was coming from Omkara, and after Dawn, she did Jab We Met. So just imagine how good she was at that time. So this was peak Bebo. Yeah. And I also found it weird, the whole sexual politics around Roma. I just found it really weird because everybody's commenting about Roma, even Vardhan gets an underhanded thing to slip in. But even her colleague that's obsessing about her, which was again, poor guy, that birthday line, I felt so bad for the guy, it's your birthday. Oh no, it's actually my birthday.
Jumping friend zone from the beginning.
Yeah,
at the end. The end where he looks at Dawn and is if anything happens to her, then I'll, and then Shahrukh is then you'll what?
Yeah, kya karega mein? Kya karega? I loved also where he just randomly booty call dropped by and she just continues cooking her omelette or whatever she's doing. No interest whatsoever in poor Arjun.
Oh, that was just tragic.
What did you guys think of revisiting the Hrithik Roshan cameo?
I'd forgotten about it. It was such a fun surprise. I'd forgotten that Hrithik does that.
I thought he was just included for the lols. I'm the only purpose he serves is that he can dance well, and he does that and he fucks off.
Is that a tango they're doing? It's a tango, right? What they do?
It's like a ball dance routine.
It's it starts off as a waltz and then it goes into a tango. I don't know what it's like a mix. It's
and they are not dancing similar to anybody else in the room.
Yeah.
They're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And also, Hrithik is clearly taller than Shahrukh.
Yeah.
Amrita has to bring the height thing in every episode.
In my defense,
He's 7 Aamirs.
At least 7.5. In my defense, I watched this movie on Amazon Prime, and the guy, they have like this trivia thing that drops down, and in the trivia thing was continuity error. Hrithik is at least 3 inches taller than Shahrukh. But Shahrukh is still wearing Hrithik's clothes. It's like, wow, bitchy as hell.
Amazon with the snaps.
I have a question, right, so I've just been thinking when I was watching all the action scenes, like Aamir has done action movies like, Gajini and Sarfarosh even a bit, and then, Salman is not new to action movies, he's done plenty of them, but like having watched Shahrukh do the action scenes in this movie, do you think any of them would fit the bill? Like, if I think Salman doing any of those action scenes, it just comes in my head as him being top heavy.
Yeah. No, I think so what I understand is like it's a very street fighting style that like Shahrukh is using in this. But
so, also very fast.
Yeah, and I think that really they clearly tailored that's one of the reasons why I love the action in this movie, because they clearly tailored it to his physique. Yeah. Like they didn't just give him action है तो ऐसा करेंगे, यहाँ पे ठोकेंगे, वहाँ पे छेद करेंगे. Like it's not like that kind of action. It's like literally
it's also like when he's fighting guys who are clearly bigger than him, it shows what his sort of physicality can have advantages against this big guy, because he's more agile and he can hit them in the leg and the chest at first, so those areas get vulnerable and then they bend and then he takes over their head. And stuff like that. I just found the action to be really, really interesting.
And he doesn't present him in Salman. When Salman does action movies, his whole deal is, I am Salman. None of you are going to be stronger than me. You know, I am a tank. This is where I place myself. You come at me and I will beat you. Right? That is the Salman thing. And then when Aamir did it in Ghajini and stuff, Aamir was doing that same style of action, because it's what Salman is doing is basically the South style version, I am superhero and then I'll just beat you. But what Shahrukh is doing in this, he actually gets beaten up. Dawn is not invincible. He does get punched in the gut and everything, and he just, even by Vardhan, he gets punched out.
Yeah.
So, I really liked it.
So this was actually, this is what they're doing is an Indonesian fighting style called Silat, and Excel had this whole thing where everybody was doing Silat in all their movies for a certain time. So Abhishek's Game, I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but he's also doing Silat in that, which is also an Excel production. So I like it because it is adapted to kind of a smaller, scrawnier guy, which even, buffed up Shahrukh is still kind of, a skinnier guy. Whereas Salman, he's very much doing MMA in his recent movies like Dabangg.
Yeah.
The fights that he was doing with Sonu Sood, which is, drop down, kick him to the dirt and just, punch him out and use a lot of his strength. So it's a very different fighting style, and I do like that they found a style that was adapted to Shahrukh's physicality. And I think they do a great job. And even in the first Dawn, there's a bit more of it. I think Shahrukh is great in those kind of actiony roles, and I think the action is adapted to his physicality. I like that. I like that a lot. But the other action scenes, though, I do feel they were kind of missing a bit of grandeur in a way. It always felt like it's stuff that I've already seen. It felt like that when I watched it initially, because I'm going back to my initial review that I wrote up, and I saw this in 3D actually when I did in 2011. It was a terrible post conversion. So,
especially in 2011, it's bad in 2018. I can't imagine what it must have been like in 2011.
Can I read one line that I write here? And I'm okay, I just want to read this line because this is from my review in Dawn 2011. You can find it at New Podcasting by searching it. So the final line about the 3D is, I didn't like 3D, but then my hopes are still high for Shrish Kundar's Joker next year, which is shot in 3D and not post-converted.
Oh, awesome.
Hazaro Arman,
Hazaro Khwaishes.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, so the 3D was bad. But anyway, there's no... Like, when you rewatch the movie now without the context of the 3D, you wouldn't even think that this would be shot in 3D. That makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, a lot of the car chases, a lot of these, like, the heist sequence itself, it was very much, like James Bond and, Mission Impossible, that kind of thing. And I just felt it didn't add anything new. Yeah. And it's not as good as the original ones. So it's kind of like, you're stuck in the middle. And
itne paise mein itna hi milega, kind of feeling,
And I also felt the way, same thing about, so the dialogues itself, which were written by Farhan Akhtar, they were like just missing something. They were
You
very...
know what it is? Mm-hmm. You know what it is? Yeah. And it is the same problem in each and every Farhan Akhtar movie. He writes it in English and then he converts it into Hindi.
Oh my God. This was a note I had made and I was going to ask you that it really feels that way, doesn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
it is
we talked about it in the Talash podcast as well.
I wasn't there. Okay. Yeah, it really feels like that. And it's weird to me because I think Farhan is very competent in Hindi and Urdu, I imagine, right? He writes poetry and all that kind of stuff. So, but here it just felt very like the lines just didn't sync up the way a Hindi speaker would say them. And I don't know, maybe it needed a bit of more of that dabang punch or something like that. I don't know. I don't want Dawn to become dabang, but I wanted to, hit me in the gut. And none of those punches or dialogues or even his one-liners, his quips, did that for me. Like, I never really felt, wow, that's something cool that, and anything that was really cool was from the original Dawn from the 70s. Yeah.
I was actually, I watched parts of the movie with the subtitles on because I was watching it with like a lot of other people around and I had like, basically I needed to have the subtitles on for like a portion of the film, and the English translations of the dialogues were so much better, and I could actually see the punchlines that were coming because there's a part where like Jabbar says I want to kill you, and he says but it suits me to be alive, which is a killer line in like it suits me better to be alive, which is a great line in English. But like when you say it in Hindi, zinda rehna mujhe aur suit karta hai. Like I was like, what kind of champu says that? Like that's not something that Dawn says. I don't know why Farhan wouldn't just like write out the story and then like get like Hindi dialogue writers in to like write the dialogues. Like surely that can be done.
Yeah. Get Milab Zaveri or whatever his name is. No, don't do that. Yeah, but I just like felt it just didn't sound as cool as he looked. Like Shahrukh looked really cool, but he didn't sound that cool, which is kind of a weird dichotomy. Like, but this was really the period where Shahrukh was trying to cross over because he had Ravan. And then he had this, and it had a super wide release. This was actually released 2 days before in the UK that it was released in India, which does almost never happen. So they were really pushing it, and even in his interviews, they were like, "Oh, we don't want to feel that when a foreigner watches our movies, that we feel ashamed that we didn't, that it doesn't look good, it doesn't sound good."
He's already like very, very big in Germany and stuff, and like because K3G did like really big business in home entertainment in like Germany, and he's big in Berlin, and this movie was shot in Berlin. And I remember when this movie was released, like the premiere was for the Berlin Film Festival, and the tickets for the premiere were like couple of thousand grand on eBay and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
I think the Germans would basically watch Shahrukh like, in the bathroom. Like they would do anything for Shahrukh. They love Shahrukh.
Yeah. But I think what I meant is with crossing over, they love him for these Bollywood movies, right? These are Bollywood fans. But I think he wanted Hollywood fans to love Dawn, love Ravan, and that's what they were going for. I think that's something, that sentiment has gone away now. Shahrukh doesn't need that kind of validations, I feel, or he's over it now. But I think at Dawn, Ravan, he was really trying to cross over. And I don't think it worked out at all. So it's a shame. But it's also not that good. Like, if you've watched Mission Impossible, your mind is not going to be blown away by Dawn 2, right? It's more about our desi validation that we can say, oh, look, our movies are as good as those. And they are. The production is really good. But it never added something more. It didn't go balls out in a way. And it's a shame. It's a shame they didn't.
The only thing that's going to surpass Mission Impossible 4 is Mission Impossible 5, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nobody else doing that kind of movies.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for a Dawn 2 to compete against those anyway with that kind of budget.
Yeah, what about Kunal Kapoor? Do you want to talk? His name is Kunal Kapoor, right? I'm not missing him.
Yeah.
It's probably the only movie where Kunal Kapoor and Hrithik Roshan share the same movie, because there was this Karan Johar episode when he was asked, how do you react if somebody confused you for Kunal Kapoor, and he was like, oh, that's okay.
Sorry, what? Who? What? Give me some more context. What?
So on Coffee with Karan, Hrithik Roshan was asked how would he feel if somebody confused him for Kunal Kapoor, and he was like, pretty cool. He's a good-looking dude. That's the context. That's it.
Oh God, Hrithik is so lame. Even as a quip, that doesn't work. Yeah, what is Kunal Kapoor? In general, I don't understand.
Why is Kunal Kapoor?
Why is Kunal Kapoor? Where is Kunal Kapoor? I don't think I like him.
I think Kunal was he was supposed to be the next big thing, I think, for 2 minutes. People were like, he's you know what it is? You know how people talk about Vicky Kaushal today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they used to talk about Kunal Kapoor.
Exactly. Dono ka kuch nahi hone wala.
I don't know what, I've never heard of Vicky Kaushal until maybe a couple of months ago, and now everybody's like, Vicky Kaushal is the face of Indian cinema. He's going to change the world. And I'm like, but what has he done? I know he's in a couple of movies that I've seen, but I don't get it. But yeah.
I think I thought that Karthik Aaryan was going to change the face of, they keep changing every other week, right? With this, who's going to change
One of them will do it, and then we will all be like, we are old, we don't know who are these people.
It doesn't matter, we are still watching Dawn 2.
I know, we only watch movies made by people who debuted in the 1990s. After that, we don't want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, we are so sad.
Yeah, I'm actually going through his filmography of Kunal Kapoor. Guys, I've actually interviewed him. That's why I'm keeping shut. But
so you're the person who's been been promoting Vicky Kaushal, is it?
Yeah, that's my whole life goal. This and being an MRA, No, he's a nice guy. And I think, it was funny because I interviewed him for Raghav 2.0. Is that the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raghu Raghav 2.0. Unfortunately, I had my computer crashed and I couldn't get to, I lost the file. But he's a nice guy to talk about, and he was really coasting from the success of Masan at that time, which was a big thing. And, I just kind of, I do, usually I just ask Twitter, what do you feel? What do you want to ask me? And the most things that I got is he's so hot. And again, I didn't know he's hot, but good for him, he's hot. So I actually told him he's very hot. He was very happy to hear that. And I think with Kunal Kapoor is the same thing. Most of the people I've heard of Kunal is that he's very hot for certain people. which I don't, I don't know. Like, I have no problems in saying that a guy is hot. I'm pretty confident in my sexuality, but I don't see it with Kunal Kapoor necessarily. So, yeah, I don't know what is, who is, what is, where is Kunal Kapoor in this movie? What is he doing? But I just feel it's a shame because Don's crew is so weak, you know? When you have a Fast and Furious, you have an Ocean's 11, all these kind of movies with a heist, every character is important or adds something new to it, you know? And
that's pretty clueless. Like, what is everybody else's role in this whole plan?
Yeah, just like picking up parcels and dropping off parcels, basically, right?
Like, literally, like, Don has an entire crew, and then his plan is like, yeah, I'm just gonna like fuck off and like leave the crew there to get arrested. I'm like, that is not a plan. And that's like the worst heist movie ever. Like, you're like just telling me up front that I don't need to care about anything that's happening in front of me.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's what I mean. Like, you know, it's a writing problem with this movie. It has all the parts, but it's like Farhan didn't know how to put it all together.
Yeah. Oh.
Cool. By the way, speaking of Farhan, like, you know, one of the, like, I really love the soundtrack of this movie and my
Dawn
favorite
too.
song. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I'm like, one of my favorite songs from this album is Hai Ye Maya, sung by Usha Uttup.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like a very old school retro Bond theme, kind of, with all the horns and stuff. Initially, it was designed for Farhan to sing that, and like Shankar Ehsan Loy were like really thinking about how to avoid that. And so they thought, Usha Uttup would really sound good in this song, and thank fuck they went with her.
Yeah, they got Usha, so Farhan wouldn't have an argument. He's like, okay, Usha, okay, fuck, I obviously can't compete with her, you know, so I'll just shut up. You can listen to a snippet of Farhan's version in the making video, and then it sounds like just way like 10 times better when Usha sings it. It's just amazing. I'll really, really love that song. It did make me sad that this is the last movie Farhan has directed.
Yeah, because he's too busy being the face.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think this is the same year Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara came out. And his career as an actor really took off with that because Luck by Chance didn't do it that much. And now
he got busy with Bhag Milkha Bhag and all that.
Yeah, now he's an actor. He's not even like, I think on IMDb they've put in Dawn 3 for 2020, I think, and apparently he's gonna maybe play a role in it, maybe the bad guy or something like that, which could be good because Don needs a foil, you know, he hasn't had somebody that he's fighting against, so that could be good to have somebody, even if it's, you know, Farhan himself. But should we just let go of the idea of Farhan as this very talented, groundbreaking
all-rounder
director-writer, you know, that's how we as film fans want to see him, but he just wants to be an actor and a producer, it seems. I don't know, should we just let go of the idea that he's ever going to come back and give us another, you know, Dil Chahta Hai?
I don't think he can do Dil Chahta Hai again. Like, I don't think he's the same person that made Dil Chahta Hai because that's a very specific movie.
But, you know, like, I think he can make a Dil Chahta Hai every 10 years, you know, he made Dil Chahta Hai at that time, then he made Rock On 10 years later, which was about a bit later. Then 10 years later, he can talk about, you know, what's going on in his life when he's almost 50. So he could keep making that movie if you want. But even Lakshya was really good. I really liked Lakshya when it came out. So it just seems like it's an uncompleted thing, him as a director. And because he's okay, like as an actor, but it's not, I'm not running out to go watch Lucknow Central, you know, like Lucknow Central area, you know, get the ticket and advance booking or something. So,
I don't think anything like that happens with any of the actors these days, though, because everything is so accessible.
I've got my race ticket, man. Oh God. Are you guys looking forward to Dawn 3, by the way? That's my kind of final roundup question. Is this like a franchise you're like, wow? I'm surprised that they waited so long for Dawn 3, but, are you guys looking forward to it? Yeah.
I mean, I'm really happy to see Shahrukh in that negative zone because that's what he does best. But I'm also quite worried about how Farhan is as a filmmaker now.
Yeah.
Is he at all committed to that job, or does he still have like stardom in his eyes?
I think I'm excited to see what kind of style statement they'll make with this with Dawn 3.
And how Pawan Kalyan would copy it for the next 15 years.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, like even like in the like the Dawn remake, like the things that they were doing were like very fashion forward. Like remember, like for like Shahrukh loved that stupid like that cravat thing.
Yeah.
And, like, and he loved it so much he was wearing it off screen. Like I think he went to the Emmys or something, or the Golden Globes or something, wearing it, and I was just like, "What are you doing? Like, just wear a fucking tie."
Yeah, just button up, man. Just button up, please.
So yeah, like I'm interested to see what the 2020 version of Dawn would look like.
Yeah, if it happens. I mean, there's no guarantees, right? Like,
yeah.
I hope Dawn ends up in space or something like that, you know? You just take it up a notch, you know, interstellar kind of thing, you know?
Also, I'm a
in the same spaceship as Preeti's in Tacoma.
Also, I'm a messy bitch, so I just want to see if they'll cast Priyanka Chopra.
I know, right? I don't think you can make a Dawn without Priyanka, to be honest, right?
Yeah, like how are you going to get rid of Roma, man? Like he ends the movie saying like Roma's become a difficult habit to break for him. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Maybe she just got settled down with Arjun and they're having omelets together or something like that. Yeah. Good. I think we're done. So yeah, I think next episode, we're still talking about, where did my thing go? 1996. You will be voting for Chahat, English Babu Desi Mein, which I hear there are people that are fans of that movie. Raja.
I remember that fucking song, Bharatpur Lut Gaya from English Babu Desi Mein.
Oh god, maybe we should watch something super terrible, you know. Raja Hindustani, Khamoshi, Jeet, and Majdar or Ye Majdar. I don't know if they ever decided what the movie is going to be called. It's terrible, so I don't want to watch that movie. Thank you for everybody that also left us a review. We've picked out a few winners, so we'll be sending out some goodie bags and some books for them. But I also have a few more extra Hitchkey goodie bags. So if anybody wants them, just shoot us over a review or send us over some listener choices and we add them to it. And I'll send you a Hitchkey goodie bag, which is actually quite cool. Anyway, so I think that's it. Sujoy, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter at @9e3k.
Amrita?
I'm on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
Great. And you've been listening to Khandaan Podcast. Subscribe to us, share with your friends. Let us know you're listening to this awesome podcast that you should listen to. So, subscribe, leave us a review. My name is Asif Bernie, and thanks everybody for listening.
Khandaan Podcast on the acting. Girl, you're much